So for number one, it says to write the point slope equation. So the first thing I notice and that you notice is that there is a lattice point here and that there is another lattice point here. And those are, like I said, the only two. It comes close. It does some pretty close flybys on a couple of other points, but those are the only two legit lattice points. And so the first thing that I would do if I were taking my own quiz is I would calculate the slope. Because as I've said before, you're not going anywhere without slope. Slope is the key. And so if I count that out, I'm just going to write m equals, and I'm going to write negative before I forget and write something crazy. And then I just count it out. And it looks like I have to go down five. So to go one, two, three, four, five. So I know the top of my slope is five. And then I do have to come all the way back to the right, eight. It takes eight jumps to get back to the line, to get back to the next lattice point. So we all should agree that the slope is negative 5/8. So it's at this point that I would see some 50-50 split. So if you elect to use the purple point, you would name that point first and foremost. And so I would write down the name of that point. I will not be very happy if you don't. So the point's name is -4, +2. Make sure you write that down so that I can see your intent. And then the equation that would come from that line would be y minus 2 equals -5/8 of x plus 4. It changes to a plus because it would have been minus a negative. If I decided to use this red point down here, then I would write down its name first, which is 4, -3. To get to that point, you have to go right 4 and down 3. And then the equation that would come from that point and the slope that we found a minute ago would just be y plus 3 equals -5/8 of x minus 4. So the things that I would expect from you, because I know some of you, all of you should want A's, but some of you need them more than others, are I would expect to see you naming the slope. I feel like that's something you would do even if I didn't put it in the directions. I feel like that's what you would do, but that should be there. And then I should see you either doing what I have in purple or what I have in red. Not both. You don't need to do both. You're not going to get extra credit if you do both. You're just pick one. All right. So you ride one of the points to the finish line and you pick. Do you have any questions about that problem at all? Okay. In question two, the thing that I would add, I said, please name the point given by the equation. Tomorrow, I will also add in there, please also name the slope. Okay, so what I want from you in this problem is I want you to show me that when I give you an equation like this one up here, that you can tell me everything about the line just from that equation. So the first thing you can tell me is that that line will go through a point. And what are the coordinates of that point? -3. Good job. -3 and +2. And I just, like I said a few minutes ago, decided I don't see why I didn't type that in there, but you should also name the slope. I think that's important that you would say that the slope of this line is equal to 4/3. So you want to commit yourself to writing both of those things down. And then after that, you'd want to write the equation of the line. And the equation of the line should just fall right into place because you've got all the structure that you need with that point and that slope. So the equation of the line, oops, excuse me, never mind. We already have the equation of the line. So you want to graph the line. And so what I would do is I would go to the point that I named. I have it right there, -3 and 2. And so I'm going to go left 3 and up 2. And that's going to be like my starting point, like my home base, if you will. And where will I go from that point to get to more points? Up 4. Perfect. So I could go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And we know to go right, After Rowdy decides to go up 4, we know we have to go right because if we didn't, then the line would go downhill and that would be embarrassing. But we also have a teacher that's kind of a he's picky, right? And so we also want to make another point, and there is enough real estate to catch another point. How else could I trap another one?
Down four left.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, backwards 3. And I know to go left because again, we should always be thinking about what do we want our lines to look like, right? Positive slopes look one way, negative slopes look another way. So you just graph the line and put arrowheads on it. Please make sure you use a ruler when you graph your lines. Always. I mean, it doesn't really matter like the scenario, the context. You should always graph straight lines and put arrowheads on both sides. So that to me would be a completed problem too. I named the point that I got from the equation, I named the slope, and then I used those two things to make a nice straight line. Any questions about that one? Question 3 is sort of a glimpse into our future here. There's going to be a day soon, probably Wednesday, where we start looking at a mixed bag of problems. It might be Thursday, where I'm going to have you writing equations of lines under different um, scenarios. So does anyone, by the way, you do not have to write number 3 in point slope. That's why I changed the directions. I didn't say write the equation in point slope. I just wrote write the equation to see if anyone would grab it. Does anyone know what number 3 is?
Y plus 5 equals 2.
Um,
5 plus.
Interestingly, I think that actually would work. Why don't we go somewhere else with that? The only way I'm going to buy that answer from you, because I'm not going to say it's wrong, but could you name that point for me?
Negative 5.
No, that's just a number. Could you name it as an actual ordered pair?
What do you mean?
Like this is an ordered pair. Could you name it like that, like the green one?
Name, what do you mean name or the negative 5 is the green one?
It's a point. Yeah,
No, negative.
that's just a number. Yeah,
Negative 5.
it's not that.
Zero.
It is that. This is not how I want to do this problem, but I also didn't want to act like what Seth said was not important because it is. But if you want to do this in point slope like we've been doing, you would want to go and say, okay, let me visualize what a y-intercept looks like. I did not intend to have this conversation with you, but I'm glad that we are having this. So here is a set of axes. If I said to you that the y-intercept was -5, then you would say, oh, so there's a point down here at -5 on the y-axis, right? And what are the coordinates again of that point? 0, -5. And this is not a direction I saw this going, but I'm intrigued by this. Is neat. So if you wanted to do this problem the same way, you could reword this instead of calling it the y-intercept as -5. You could say, so it goes through the point 0, -5. All locations on an XY graph can be named like that. All locations have numbers, 2 of them associated with them, right? And now if I were to do this problem the point slope way, what would it say? I wouldn't do it this way, by the way. I'm just showing you. What would it say?
Y plus 5 equals 2,000. X and mine.
And if you could put x -0 if you wanted to, right? I want to show you a simpler way to do this problem. Let me ask you a question. If I put up this equation, what's the slope? Go. Nope. 5. What's the y-intercept? Okay, how about this one? What's the slope?
Okay.
What's the y-intercept? Okay, let's go again. What's the slope?
X.
1. X will not be a part of your slope until you take a course called calculus. At that point, you start to study the slopes of curves that are always changing. Slope becomes a variable value in calculus. For us, slope is a number. It is a constant, okay? The slope is not 1x, it is just the number 1. What's the y-intercept? It is 3. So my question to you is, if I keep giving you these equations and asking you for the slope and the y-intercept, you seem to just know that they come from here and here, here and here, here and here, correct? So what's the equation of this line? It does not have to be point slope. I'm sorry, what? 2/3. Oh, yeah, good. Done. There is no law that prohibits me from using slope intercept to my advantage in a situation like this. If someone's generous enough to just give me a slope and a y-intercept, then I'm just going to plug them right into their happy little homes. That's why I took point slope out of the directions. I don't feel like this is an appropriate time to write it in point slope. I feel like it's appropriate in a case like this to just write it in slope intercept and call it a day. Perfect. I need to know where you're at with that. Does that make sense? For those of you that are awake, does it make sense? Yeah, I would put that on my page of notes. I would put everything on my page of notes. That's how I roll. Does that make sense, Hoffman? Yeah, Rowdy?
So you would take y plus 5 2/3?
No,
You wouldn't?
no, because you didn't have an X in yours, so I would mark that wrong.
Y plus 5 equals 2/3 x.
Oh, I would take that. But not Y plus
Does
5
it
equals
actually
2/3. It does not. So again, if you really wanted to make this, so again, this point is 0, -5. But if you really wanted to do it this way, you'd have to have Y plus 5 equals 2/3. And you can write it like this, right? Or since there's a 0, you could just write it like this. I don't think it takes much of a math degree for you to spot that these two are identical. How could the purple one become the red one? Yeah, if I just moved the 5 to the other side, right? If I took the 5 and subtracted it, look where it would go. It would go right to the back, just like that, right? And that's kind of where we're headed here in a bit. Good. Okay. I am going to put a question like that on your quiz just to see where you're at. If there's a reason why you want to write it the harder way, I'm not going to get in your way. But generally, if I give you a problem where I say, this, what's the quickest, best, easiest way to get to the finish line?
Y minus 10 equals -5/7.
Y equals -5/7 of x plus 10. Done. Eventually, where we're headed is I'm going to want every single answer in slope intercept form. Just foreshadowing. That's not foreshadowing. I just straight up told you. There's going to come a point where I just want every answer as y equals mx plus b. So just to start learning that we can get there quicker, maybe not a bad thing. Okay. So the key here, what makes this problem so fun and simple is that if I give you two very specific things, the slope is one of them and the y-intercept is the other. If those two exact things are given to you, you just drop them right in their little happy spots and you're good to go. Okay. Any questions about number 3? Okay. Question 4 is kind of we're back more to what we're used to. Okay, I knew there'd be some discussion about 3, but number 4, I'm guessing you didn't have a very difficult time with. What would this one say? I would use point slope for this, by the way.
X.
Sorry, what? -5.
Oh, plus 5.
Good. And that's it. If there's a little bit of time here in a few minutes, I'm going to start working with these and showing you how to do conversions. But for now, on this quiz tomorrow, you can leave it like that. It's totally fine. Any questions about that? Okay. final push then heads us into problems 5 and 6. And I'm sorry to have to ask this, but it's important that I can get as many of you. There's like 2 people sleeping, probably 3 people ready to sleep, probably 4 people thinking about what they're going to have for lunch today. But for the 9 of you that are listening intently, here it goes. What changes when I get to problem 5? What significant change occurred? What don't I have?
Well,
The slope. No slope is a problem. And it's a problem that you can always remedy by just doing something you know how to do. And it's not the kind of thing that we should be good at. It's the kind of thing that we should be non-negotiably perfect at. There should not still be mistakes happening with this process ever. 0%. So I'm going to show my work. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to write it as a subtraction problem, which would be 3 minus -1. We should still write that down, whether our teacher tells us we have to or not. And then the other one is going to be this one, which is -3 minus 5. And then I'm going to math. 3 plus 1 on top is 4. -3 minus 5 on bottom is -8. So I'm going to state now that the slope is negative 1 over 2. Okay. So that's going to be step one, is to always, that's just going to never change. If you go into a math problem like this and you don't know the slope, put everything else aside, find it first. Find the slope. And then from there, remember, we've talked about this. You have choices. Um, one person might choose to use this point. Okay. And if they do, then their answer is going to be y minus -1 equals the slope times x minus 5. And then someone else might elect to use the second point. And their answer is going to be y minus 3 equals -1/2 of x minus -3. Okay. Again, please, I don't need them both. Just one is fine. The one thing about this that every one of us should have in common is that we all should have the same slope. So regardless of which point you pick, the things in the green boxes, those should be the same all around the room, no matter where you're sitting. All right, the last one is question 6, and it's really the same as the one that came before it. So we just have to be really good at this. So we're going to take this minus -12. And then on the bottom, we're going to do -2 minus -4. Okay. And then we math. And on the top, what's 4 plus 12? Nice. And then on the bottom, what's -2 plus 4? And what is 16 over 2? 8. So we all would agree at this point that the slope is 8. But it's from here that the freedom of choice kicks in, right? So one person might choose the point with the red star, and their answer will be y minus -12 equals the slope times x minus -4. But then someone else, like Bella, might choose to use this point. All right. I know that Bella likes the points that have the smaller numbers on them. I talked to her about this earlier. And so she's going to have y minus 4 equals, and then her slope is still going to be 8. She and I agree on that. And then inside, she's going to have x minus -2, right? Any questions about that? Let's do, while I'm just going to keep the recording going. Let's take about 4 minutes of notes and just let's chip this away. And I'll have a little bit more to say about this tomorrow, but there's a nice little opportunity to seize some time here. I'm going to take advantage of it. If you have any questions on what I just went over, there's a flex period right after this. I'm always available during lunch, or you can just track me down sometime in the next 23 and a half hours. Okay.
yeah, I'll back.
Yes. So I won't finish what I'm after today, but I can at least kind of dig in and get started on it. So I won't hold you to this for tomorrow's quiz, obviously. You're going to get several answers on tomorrow's quiz that you're going to leave in point slope. Like y minus 3 equals 2/3 times x plus 5. Totally fine. But the push now is going to become, as I kind of force us through the end of this unit, can we just start writing everything, regardless of where we start, can we convert and end everything as a slope intercept y equals mx plus b? So I probably won't have the time or desire to get to the ones with the ugly fractions in them today, but I can get the basics of this out of the way. So an example of a point slope equation would be something like this. And where I want us to go moving forward is, can we all come to the same place? Can we all come to the same slope intercept equation? And in order to get there, there are two steps, and it's just never going to be more than two. It's always going to be two. And you have to do them, or you should do them in the right order. It'll be a lot easier if you do. Step one is to distribute. And so we're going to take our slope and we're going to distribute it through like this. And if we do that, the left side still says y minus 4 equals. What is the right side going to be? You've been distributing all year and last year. What's that? It's going to say negative 3x, and what else? Minus 6. Good basic math there. Good job with your negative. Good observation that when you distribute a negative number, it changes the sign of everything that it touches, right? So our plus 2 becomes a minus 6. Can you see what the last step would be to finally, or like officially, get it into slope intercept? I mean, yeah, get y by itself is the battle cry, right? And how we do that is by adding 4 to both sides. You see, math isn't all that tricky. If you want y by itself, you simply have to eliminate the 4. So by adding 4 right here and right here, we now have converted it into slope intercept, because it will say y equals what? Correct. And so I've sort of been alluding to this for a while, that, that's why we can have multiple point slope equations. Austin might write his one way and Kobe might write his another way, depending on the points that they selected on the line. But starting after the quiz tomorrow on the worksheet, we find that we're all going to come to the same place. How we get there might be a little bit different, but eventually this will be the final answer to a problem, regardless of which point slope equation Swan did. Okay, let's go again. And I'm going to give you a little fraction this time, but it's not going to be an evil fraction, okay? I'm going to save the evil fractions for tomorrow. So if I had like y plus 5 equals 1/2 times x minus 8. What's step one? Distribute is the right answer, and it's going to keep being the right answer. Thank you for that. So I'm going to take this 1/2 and I'm going to distribute it through the parentheses like this. And you'll see in a second what I mean by this is not a terrible fraction. This guy's pretty darn friendly. So I keep the y plus 5. And I got this first one, half times x. Well, that's easy. That's just a half of x. Is the sign going to change from a minus? No, I have no reason to. I'm not distributing a negative. And what's half times 8, or half of 8? There you go. So not all fractions are created equal, right? Just because I see a fraction as my slope doesn't necessarily imply that the problem's going to suck. You will enjoy them less when the number at the end of the arrow, this guy, is not agreeable to the division. But a half of 8 is 4. Like, you've known that since you were a little kid. And then the last step will continue to be moving this number. So let's subtract 5. What's our final answer for this one? Y equals what? There it is. So that's it for today. Quiz tomorrow. And then there's going to be a little bit more of a lesson on this at the start of class tomorrow. So tomorrow will be conclusion of this lecture, then a short quiz, then a worksheet in that order. Got it? If you are not thinking you're going to get 100% on that quiz, You have 23 hours and 15-ish minutes to find me and get the help you need. I would love to assist you.